Welcome to our video cast on the Olympics and all things going on with the Summer Games, the Paralympics, and the Paris Olympics. And we've been talking to a number of professionals in the sports industry. And today we have Farard Darver of Healthcare International Research, who's going to provide us some background on the pharmaceutical industry and its effect on sports in general, and probably talk a little bit about the Olympics specifically, and maybe we can even get him to opine on the latest chapter on the Chinese swimmers. But we won't push that. In any event, Farrar, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, what it does, and then we'll get into some of the details.
Yeah, sure, Casey. So Healthcare International Research is a company that manufactures and produces cannabinoid-based topical products, mainly focused around CBD. And we've been doing that now for going on about 5 years now. We are quite heavily steeped in science. So our three pillars are science, regulatory compliance, and efficacy. And we have two brands. One of them is a healthcare and wellness brand called Hempy, or Hemp, depending on where you're from. The E is silent. And the other one is a beauty and skincare range called Mother Sage.
And are these substances being used by athletes now?
Yeah. So for us, when I first got into this, and when I first started the company, I came from a former career that was quite heavy on regulatory compliance and having specific rules and laws that you had to follow. But also it allowed you the freedom to go and explore. And I took that previous experience when it came to starting the company, because the use of CBD as an anti-inflammatory is extremely well known. But it obviously sits in an industry that's not very well regulated. So therefore, if you do want to get involved with this, you have to decide to then either get involved in an area that is regulated or create some kind of regulation yourself where you operate. And CBD is in itself completely legal and lawful, and even recognized by World Anti-Doping Association as being an ingredient that can be used.
So just to stop you there. So
Yeah.
if an Olympic athlete uses marijuana legally in whatever country they're in, where it's legal, say California, that doesn't necessarily disqualify them from being an Olympian, correct?
No, incorrect, because it's only CBD, which is one of 100 chemical entities inside the plant. And bearing in mind, you've got cannabis sativa, and cannabis sativa has marijuana on one side, which is very heavy on THC and not so much with CBD. And on the other, the hemp plant, which is very heavy in CBD and not so much within the THC. And CBD is the only one of the 400 odd chemical entities in the plant that is actually you are allowed to have in your system. The issue with professional athletes and the use of cannabis or CBD or anything from the hemp plant basically comes down to the fact that while CBD, cannabidiol acid, is allowed, none of the other cannabinoids are. So if you take something that has CBD in it and you end up going for a test, and that test you test positive on one of the other number of cannabinoids that can be within that product, that through the extraction process or how it's formulated, that's what you will fail on. You won't fail on having CBD in your system because you're allowed to have CBD. It's allowed. You're just not allowed to have any of the other cannabinoids in it. And that's where it falls foul, that people who end up testing positive going, but I used a CBD oil from whatever. You may have, and all good intents and purposes may have been there, but the bottom line is that there may have been other things in that product that you used, such as THC or something else, CBG or CBN, and that's what you will test positive for.
And so how does an athlete ensure that they're getting a pure CBD product that doesn't have those other elements in it?
That's a very good question. And we are currently the only company that's pioneering that kind of work, that
Okay.
we can guarantee through elite athlete certification that you can use it. So many years ago, we were looking at this, at where and how and the why, and we now have products that have been certified for elite sport, elite athletes, and it's been a long road to get there. And we currently one of the pioneers doing this, where you actually have a CBD as a used as an ingredient in its anti-inflammatory role, combined with other ingredients. We use it as a topical, and that is now something that can be used by professional athletes, and they are safe in the know-how that if they were to take a urine or blood antidote compulsory drug test, they would not test positive for any of the other cannabinoids other than CBD that is allowed. And that is what we have now achieved very recently. And we believe we are actually the first to do that.
So I'm not a doctor and not a professional athlete. So maybe, and some of the other people in the audience aren't either. Tell us where the inflammation that your product would treat would actually help a particular kind of athlete, whether it's a cyclist or a tennis
Yeah,
player
I mean,
or a
that is,
football player.
that's a really good question, Casey, because the thing is, all athletes are different, and people, get inflamed in various ways. What we focused on was a topical product that could utilize the anti-inflammatory effects of not just CBD, but other natural ingredients such as menthol and eucalyptus or whatever else. And we realized that if you've got a very sore muscle or a joint, or you pulled a muscle, you've got something currently, from an analgesic point of view, there is nothing really out there that acts very quickly through transdermal penetration of the skin barrier. A lot of products that are available give you a feeling on your skin like something is happening. And there are lots of products out there that use diclofenac, which is a very well-known anti-inflammatory, and there is absolutely a time and a place for it. But it's not something that you want to be using all the time. It is very harmful, obviously, to internal organs, using something as powerful as that. So we wanted to create something that used natural ingredients, natural anti-inflammatory ingredients, and we wanted to do it through transdermal capabilities. So our research is where that really went down. We were doing robotic in vitro machine testing, with formulators that have over 30 years of experience. We were basing our products on over 60 years of science, because a lot of people don't realize that whilst CBD was discovered in 1951 in the US, and it was, the actual healing effect of the chemical at the molecular level was actually discovered in Czechoslovakia in 1955 by a group of scientists led by Jan Kobilik, Frank Zatnavy, and Zdeněk Krečky. Now, they had this finding and quantified this 4 years before Professor Ralph Mechoulam in Israel did. A lot of people don't realize this. A lot of people don't know this, because it was written in Czech, held behind the Iron Curtain, and no one ever knew about it. So we went to the source of where this was, and these individuals laid the foundations of the formulas that we currently use. And it's all about understanding the human body. We as humans have what's called an endocannabinoid system inside our body. It's part of our central nervous system with CB1 and CB2 receptors. And in fact, we naturally create cannabinoids. We do this as children. Cannabinoids are naturally within mother's breast milk, and it's absorbed at point of source as a child. So it is a natural part of it. Cannabis and the hemp plant used to grow naturally, amongst the wild and grass, and animals would eat and consume grass, and they would also ingest the cannabis leaves and the stalks and the stems, and we would drink their milk or hunt them as the animals and eat and consume the meat, and we would incorporate this. So our bodies know what to do with it when it's reintroduced. But obviously, due to prohibition and just, evolution. It's not something that is kind of as part of a mainstay, So when your body is reintroduced to it, it knows exactly what to do, because CBD is extremely good at facilitating what's called body homeostasis, that kind of perfect balance. When you get stressed and your skin breaks out, that's an imbalance of your body's homeostasis. And this is why CBD, or cannabidiol acid, is extremely good naturally, because it calms that. So what we wanted to do was to take that kind of calming anti-inflammatory that occurs at a cellular level and apply that to muscles and joints, that have increased inflammation. And so what we did was create a topical product that could be used through just rubbing it on, because we achieved transdermal penetration of the skin barrier, and we could inculcate those ingredients to move and react with the injury. Then actually, it ends up with something that we've got that's allowing us to have an analgesic topical product that's perfectly natural but alleviates inflammation.
Interesting. So if there's an athlete, specifically maybe an Olympic athlete, who feels like this could be beneficial to them, how do they get it?
Well, at the moment,
at the drugstore in Paris?
Yeah, I mean, well, so we currently we a lot of what we did was based on getting the research, getting the regulatory compliance. The launching of the brand was the final step, which we've recently done. So any athletes that want to use this, they can purchase it online or through shops. We sell around the UK and Europe. The best thing for any professional athletes is probably make an approach directly to us. They can find us online through our Instagram, Hempy Helps, or go online to www.hemphelps.com. Or very soon they'll find us in shops up and down the country and around, because as we've just launched, we've had an awful lot of people that are excited to want to get involved with us. And in fact, we have just signed our first top tier European football team, which will be announced soon. I can't say it just yet because we haven't quite done it yet, but we have a top tier European team who we've just signed with, that they've seen the benefits of utilizing something that is natural for reducing inflammation. And also, it's about pre-recovery, not just post-recovery. So a lot of our products are used before they do the engagement with the sport or the exercise, as well as after.
And so, but there's free trade. You can send it to Europe. There's no issue regarding the fact it's a cannabis-based product.
We are an international company. We are regulated and authorized to ship around the world. There are countries that don't allow this just yet, but the main thing is that CBD, which is what we really focus on, is not a controlled substance. This has been like this for many years, and it is something that has been recognized as not a scheduled narcotic. So it's perfectly legal. It's just that some countries it's still illegal because they just haven't changed their internal national rules to accommodate the wider global kind of rule change, if you want to call it that. But we're selling our products all around the world, from South America, North America, South Africa, India, in the Middle East. So we are, and all around Europe. So, as I said, regulatory compliance was something that we aimed for first. And now that we've got that, we are opened up. I mean, we are quite literally weeks away from just closing out some deals with some major leagues in the US, which is fantastic for us. We've got various leagues that are very interested in this, and we are very close to kind of becoming global properly as a brand.
That's great. So we know a little bit about this Chinese doping and some of the swimmers who seem to have gotten off, and actually some of them, I guess, are competing in the Paris Games anyways. Some perspectives on that?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's a line, isn't there? And ultimately speaking, if you are in the Olympics, which is the whole point of the Olympics, is to compete on an even playing fields in regards to what you can and cannot use. And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, if you are using something that is illegal to give you an edge, that should not be allowed. If you are using something that is legal to give you an edge, then why not? That just means that you're looking at things, in a different light, or trying to gain a competitive advantage or an incremental gain. And I don't see any issues with that. That is what competition is about. How can you use the rules within the rules to your benefit? So I don't see a problem. I think actually the one we really want to be kind of keeping an eye on is the use of the games that are happening, where they are going to allow all of this enhanced drugs, or I think it's called the enhanced games, I think is what it is. So that's actually on the other side of the Olympics, something that I'd be very interested in seeing exactly what that is, because that's it's taking it to a different level. I'm not sure if it's the next level. It's just a different, and that's something that is probably quite both concerning, but at the same time, probably it's going to have a few eyes on it.
Right. It'll be the competition of the drug companies.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world now where people are curious, very much so, more than they have been before. And because of the use of social media and everyone walking around with a computer in their pocket and an encyclopedia, with the attention span is shorter than it has probably been for all of us. So when you've got this kind of immediate curiosity and able to voice opinions globally within minutes because of something going viral, it's going to be interesting to see, is the fastest man or woman in the world someone that runs the 100 meters the quickest, careless of what they use to do it? And that then gets onto the lines of where Kipchoge, I think it was, used a specific set of running shoes that were then not allowed in the marathon because they had a certain spring in them, in the foam, that gave him more. Well, I get that, but then at what point do you stop having that, where you could actually create almost running on springs or blades, or so, so there is at what point does I think there's a blend there in the future. I think there's going to be a blend of, kind of, human and machine, or, what point does that stop? Is it chemical enhancement, physical enhancement, robotic enhancement? Where does it stop? I think the Olympics has a very clear line, and I think it's great to keep that. But I do believe that the alternative is going to grow, because there's just that human curiosity that people want to know.
Well, technology in sports is grown exponentially, just like technology and everywhere else. And so when you look at the equipment, you look at, the pools, it's a fast pool. The way they build pools now is much different than they built decades ago. They're much faster. And so you do wonder what, an athlete from the 80s could swim in a pool built in, the 21st century. And so it is interesting in technology. But we had Bruce Furness on another podcast, and he was a gold medalist in '76 in Montreal. And he had on some less than stellar swim trunks, because he wanted to send a message, and he thought to himself, God, if I sent the message and still didn't win the gold medal and lost by 1/100th of a second, I'd really be kicking myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But then, it brings you back to, I mean, I'm not a huge Olympic historian, but I know that there have been some world records that have been standing for 20 or 30 years. And, 20 or 30 years ago, they weren't running on the same kind of track and the same kind of shoes. And yet, so imagine what they could do at this stage,
Right.
So sometimes it really does just come down to just a better human at that specific sport, because for their time, they were just so far ahead.
Yeah, one of Bruce's world records lasted almost 20 years, till Michael Phelps in 2008. So from '76 Olympics to 2008.
There you go. Exactly. And I think we've got Steve Cram, who is a UK, Great Britain runner, only with I think it's only recently where one of his records has been beaten. So it does kind of makes you. And look, Roger Bannister, the 4 minute mile. I mean, that was there for ages, right? So
amazing.
yeah, exactly. So it's not. I do believe there is an element where it just comes down to sometimes being a fantastic individual.
And tell us a little bit about how Britain is celebrating the Olympics in terms of, they did it in 12. Did you go to any of the events?
Well, I was actually working.
What were you doing?
Well, my previous life before I started Healthcare International Research is I was a British Army officer. So and I served for 17 years. So I served quite all over the place, and I've been involved with both the London Olympics and the Commonwealth Games. So there's been an involvement where I get to see it from both sides.
Did you do security then for the London
Games? We were involved with everything from transport, security. It's a bit of a team effort, really, when something like that arrives.
Tell us one of your favorite stories from that event.
From that event, I can tell you one of the stories that is that I was fortunate enough to watch Usain Bolt it was the Commonwealth Games, and the one thing that I watched him prepare before, which a lot of the time you don't get to see on television because they're focusing on another race that's happening prior to where they're getting ready.
Free ring circus.
Yeah. And I know it's the same at the Olympics. And the one thing about Usain Bolt that struck me was, whilst everyone else is almost razor focused on what they're about to do, he doesn't show that he's, he interacts with the crowd. He speaks to the helpers that are there getting the blocks out. There was a relaxed kind of aura about him that I have never seen in a kind of professional athlete before. Such a big, like the final, and that you could just see that was just nothing more than supreme confidence. He knew what he was going to do, and that supreme confidence and air of calmness affected the others to the extent of where it made them even more nervous. You could see. And I just thought that there was something almost from a business angle you could take from that there is just such a belief in himself that his self-belief made others doubt themselves in what they were about to do. And I just thought that was fantastic.
That's tremendous. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And
you're more than welcome.
I look forward to seeing your product and hearing about your announcements in the next few weeks. So congratulations.
Yeah, please do keep an eye on. Hempy is going to be pretty big very soon.
Super. Well, thank you so much. You have a great day, a great evening.